So I grew up in a couple different places, not just places, different countries. I was born here in the US, and then when I was around 7, 8 years old, my family decided to move to Korea. My parents are born and raised from Korea. They still live in Korea, so that's kind of their background and home. So we moved there, and then right around when I would say 14, 15, I moved back to the US for high school. So there was a lot of moving around, but in terms of my family, we've been very close as my sister, me, my mom and dad. I would say we're very close family, but also having lived in Korea, I think that was very important for my family because my grandparents were there, my cousins were there, my aunts and uncle, all my extended families there. And if I had not gone back to Korea, I don't think I would have had a deep relationship as I have with them now, if I hadn't moved back and lived there for a couple of years. So that's sort of my background. I've had to adapt to multiple cultures, especially the US culture, school system, and then the Korean culture, school system. But I wouldn't say it was difficult. I just thought of it as something that I had to do, and it was part of life. So that's just something we dealt with. And all my families were very supportive. Anytime I had trouble, or if I had questions, or if I didn't understand, whether it was simple as homework or something more big, cultural or social, they explained it to me very well, so I wouldn't feel left out, or I wouldn't have this kind of confusion in terms of my background. So that's how my family kind of raised me, and I think that's helped me a lot as to shaping who I am today. Born here, and I went to the American public school right up until I was about second grade. When I was in second grade, my family decided that they wanted to move to Korea. That's where my parents are from. They were born and raised there. So they entered me into the Korean public school. Now, I didn't know this at the time. I found this out later, that they had an opportunity to send me to an international school opposed to a Korean public school, because I was born here and I was already entered into the US public school system. But my parents decided that to really experience Korea and understand the culture and learn the language, it's best that I enter a Korean public school. So that's what they did. And I mean, I just did it because that was a given option for me. But I think it was very beneficial to me because I was able to learn the language a lot quicker. I was able to understand the culture, understand the people, really, the Korean people a lot better by going into the public system, by making friends there, by learning the curriculums there. So I was in the Korean public school system till I was in middle school. And then for high school, my sister and I decided that we want to go back to the US and travel a little more, explore more opportunity for colleges. So moved back to the US for high school. That was sort of another cultural shock, because now I was more used to the Korean public school system, and all of a sudden high school, you're going through teenage years, and it was just so different. But again, it was nothing that I couldn't handle. It was I did well in school, and it was great. And because of that, now I am bilingual. I can read, write, and speak in both Korean and English very fluently. And for college, I went to University of Pittsburgh, got my civil engineering degree there. And then I moved on to get my master's at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So that was a little bit of a more change for me, going from a city to a more urban environment. But that was still great. I loved my grad school, my master's experience there. It was a great school, big campus. And then I think I was missing that city vibe. So after graduating with my master's, I moved here to New York City, and been with HNTB in New York City ever since. So civil engineering, it's not like since I was little that I wanted to do civil engineering. It wasn't quite like it. I didn't really probably get into engineering until I was in college. In high school, I was very much into art and designing and photography. And I thought I would go more that route, but my mom, she wanted me to do something a little more practical, realistic in the real world. So we sort of made a deal that I could take any classes that I would like to take, but I would choose a major that was a little more practical for the real world. And so I chose architecture. And then I just, while taking classes, I fell in love with the engineering component of it. I thought engineering was something very cookie cut, straightforward, not very creative. And I just kind of learned that was not the case. There's a lot of design, like design and art into engineering. And that's what I do right now. I do like the kind of the straightforwardness of engineering, but also there's a creativity component to engineering. And as I was taking classes and learning more about the field, that's sort of how I fell in love with engineering. And the civil engineering itself, I think it has more room for creativity. It's not just one building, it's not just one component, but it's a whole infrastructure. And it's just big, it's just grand, and I don't know, it's just amazing what you can do with it. So that's how I got to where I am right now. Right now, my main role is a drainage engineer. That's what I specialize in within the civil department. I've been with HNTB for almost 8 years now. And I've had great experiences. I love the people, I love the company, and especially the drainage. It's such a close-knit discipline that there's really a lot of art to it. And I like to think, unlike structures or some of the more like confined component, drainage engineer, we look at the site as a whole. We look at how the water is flowing. There's so much like art and design to it. It's really great. And what I love about HNTB is there's resources everywhere. We have a great water resources group that when I reach out for help, there's someone who can answer my questions. I mean, sometimes drainage and water resources can get very complicated, and I don't always have the answer, or I don't always know what to look for, how to design it. But having this group within HNTB, I can always go and ask for some senior technical review or some just a tip on how to design it. So for me, being a drainage engineer at HNTB has been so great. For me, I want to be available. I want to be there for people who need me. It might be for mentorship, it might be for specific project questions, specific technical questions, but I just want to become this person who is helpful to everyone. If someone has sort of struggle with work-life balance or struggle with some technical engineering problems. I want to be a person who is available to them and also kind of easy to approach. That's as much as I sound like a people person, by nature, I think I'm more of an introvert. So I've always had trouble kind of approaching people and how to deal with people. And I think that kind of motivates me to become this person who is helpful and available to other people. So I like mentoring junior engineers. I like teaching them. So that's kind of been my personal goal since I've been here. The most thing that I bring to the project is fluidity. I consider myself fairly flexible, and I listen to other people. I take other people's opinion and ideas with respect. And I think that comes from my background of, having to experience multiple cultures, living in different places, being adaptable, really understanding how people react to some situations just by being in two different school systems and learning two different cultures. I think I just got a lot of practice in, I wouldn't say reading people, but understanding the situation and kind of being more adaptable to it and being fluid and working with the team. And I know in this industry, it's really important to connect with people, having a team and understanding and solving the problem as a whole is very important. And I think that's something that I learned as a child how to handle, and I've been able to apply that at my work very well, I think. A member of COMTO is very important for me. This field of engineering, it's gotten a lot better, but traditionally, and even so today, we don't see a lot of sort of females, yet alone minority females. And I think it's getting better, and more diversity within the discipline is really happening. But COMTO is really trying to promote this idea, making people comfortable, making people feel included, making people see that they're part of this engineering community that they might have not felt that they were part of before. And I think that's very important to kind of be out there, to say to the public, for little kids, for education purposes. I mean, it's something that HNTB is really driving and supporting, and being a member of COMTO was just a no-brainer for me. I want to be the person who advocates, and like I said before, I want to be that person who's available, who helps other people. And by becoming a member of COMTO, if anybody has any questions, or if anybody wants to ask if I've had any personal struggles or stories that I would like to share, I would love to sit down and talk about it. And COMTO is kind of a medium that I'm able to do it in.